On our podcast show this week, we're celebrating our 1 year anniversary. It was this same Wednesday, 1 year ago, when Winston and I published our very first show, available exclusively on YouTube. This episode signifies our start to the 5th season. Wow. I recently watched our first show, and I just can't believe how far we've come in one short year. Have you rewatched episode 1, Winston?
I have, actually. It's funny because the first time, we didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't know what to expect and how to approach it. And, my audio equipment was at the time suited for gaming, wasn't really kind of like, for podcasting. But, I had to dismantle my PC, take all the equipment out and just use what I got. And, we've learned a lot. And I think we've improved ourselves tremendously. With audio equipment, with the sound and everything. And thanks to Pick Radio, because without this show that we didn't know what kind of equipment was best for audio and that kind of podcast and stuff like that. So listening back to the first show, it was, it's just a bit of a cringe, but, we've learned a lot, and I think we've improved ourselves, definitely. So I think, it's a learning experience for us.
Yeah, Pick Radio did inspire a few things, and I think that... with his encouragement, I did pick up a few things that will be my forever items, or my forever recording podcast devices. So thank you for inspiring us. And of course, a lot of people along the way have inspired us to kind of get going as well, too. But, if we wanted to be YouTube superstars like Linus, we picked the slowest way to grow on YouTube of all the things. But, it's been interesting. It's been a very interesting journey because every week, we put in the work, and in 1 year, we're going to Taiwan now to cover the largest computer show in the world, Computex, with sponsors actually paying the way. And we couldn't have done it without you, our viewers, our listeners, and of course, the people that have been supporting us in the background. Of course, like a lot of companies are keeping an eye on us. They know we're doing this podcast, and they're just waiting for us to succeed. But it's now time to give back. So this episode is dedicated to sharing with you our secrets to getting from episode number 1 to season number 5. And this is for all of you podcasting out there right now that are maybe starting episode 1, getting to episode 3 and wondering, will I be part of that 90% that stops recording? Well, hopefully we see you on the front lines at episode 100. So let's begin. The rundown, the show outline, or script is one of our most powerful tools. You've probably heard us speak about it, talk about it, but you're probably one of the people that are afraid of asking a question or one that you deem stupid. What is it? Well, for us, it's a document that gives our show structure, like a 3-act structure, like a TV show or a movie. You have to have some sort of a problem, conflict, solution, thing that you need to solve by the end of the show. And, it's a very powerful tool because it gives our show a beginning, middle, and end, just like any story structure. It also documents some of the most important points that we have to make to you, that we have to explore and unpack for you, our audience. It's also a roadmap for our conversation. So if we dive in deep into the weeds, we know where to come out at the end. And of course, it helps Winston and I support each other in the conversation. So if I'm going in the weeds and I don't know how to come out, Winston kind of says, hey, you asshole, over here. And that's how it helps us, right? Especially if you have a co-host to help you out. If you don't, if you're doing this solo, all the more power to you, but you're going to need a rundown to kind of get yourself out of the woods.
Yeah. Yes, most definitely. I think, come with the, the rundown is really important because even when I do my live shows, I have a kind of an agenda. So, we do the first part, which is news and reviews. Second part could be talking about the actual stuff you can find on the website. Third could be, recent unboxings or videos or stuff that we covered. And then we do a little quick break, and then we do like a special feature, which is like the mods of the week, the modding and that kind of stuff. And then we move on to, again, recent topics on what's been happening on the internet for the week, and then move on to prize giveaways and stuff like that. So we have a little structure, have an agenda that helps you guide through some of the stuff you can talk about each and every week. But, without that, you're kind of lost because you could be and that kind of stuff, which you can lose your audience, lose your interest and stuff like that. So a rundown really helps. And I think without that, I think me and Stephen would be lost, to be honest with you. And when we first started the podcast, I didn't even have the idea of having a rundown. And he kind of brought up this idea, okay, we need a rundown. I think, why do we need a rundown? It's just a podcast. It's just a chat, stuff like that. But now I can see the importance and how it really helps the show guide our audience, gives a rundown and all the facts and the breakdown of all the stuff that we can talk about, and it really helps. So good on you.
Yeah, the facts, getting things straight, having numbers on here that we need to cover specifically to kind of punctuate what we want to say. And also to a lot of people that think, oh no, you just sit down and you just talk, right? You just talk for 30 minutes with someone. No, actually, if you look at some of the most successful podcasts out there right now, you have a producer that's standing by that might, like, the host may not have a rundown with them, but the producer has that rundown, and they're actually guiding the conversation a little bit behind the scenes because it's their job to make sure that you stay on track, that you're on time. If you have a 50-minute show, you got to hit 50 minutes, right? Because otherwise it causes a whole bunch of issues in post-production. And in many cases, if you have a live show, you can't do that. You actually have to cut yourself off. And someone is always in that person's ear, the main host's ear, when you're talking to a guest, to kind of move things along, to kind of cut things shorter, to kind of extend things, right? So just because someone you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify doesn't have a rundown in front of them, it doesn't mean that they're not working with an outline of some sort or being prompted by someone behind the scenes. And that's why it is such a powerful document for someone who's just starting out, because you don't have a producer in your ear yelling at you, telling you to move on, right? You don't have that resource, at least not yet. And we hope that as we move on here, it's going to kind of fill in the blanks on some of the things that you might be missing in your podcast to kind of get yourself over episode number 3. I personally, I don't understand how some of these podcasts can actually start without any sort of structure. I can't even follow some of these conversations that people have because I'm like, did you already say that like 5 minutes ago, right? Or 10 minutes ago? Like this is, you're filling an hour of time by repeating yourself. And it's just, you don't deserve that, audience. You don't deserve that.
That's right. Yeah. And when you repeat yourself, you find that kind of amateurish kind of content because it's the stuff that you said before, and then you say it again and again. And it will really lose interest and lose the people that watch the content. And I see a lot of YouTubers out there doing like reaction videos and all that kind of stuff, but it's all done before, and then it gets it just goes with the flow, which sometimes it might work, but most of the time you're just watching the same content, which is kind of a bit boring after a while. So,
like we love Uncle Roger and everything, but at some point he's going to have to do something completely different. His reaction videos are going to be, he's going to have to change. We don't know what that is. Like, he's still popular. He deserves to ride this wave out as long as he can until he needs to make a change. All right. And hopefully like his audience is helping him out. I'm hoping that this audience will help us out as well too by leaving comments below.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, if you look at Mr. Beast and a few other big YouTubers out there, they have a team planning their next video, planning their next script and everything, have to go through what type of ideas that you need and that kind of stuff. So it's a whole lot of planning behind it.
Yeah.
And for us, because we're just doing a podcast, I think the script really helps with that. And each and every week we have an idea, we write it down, we share the ideas, we have a rundown, and we put inputs from yourself and myself, and that kind of really goes the flow with the podcast and of course each episode. So it really helps.
It also helps that we're also kind of students of this space, what we're talking about. We already know a lot or a little bit or are very curious about some of these topics that we talk about. And that helps that show kind of grow. Like, we could even put down one point and just kind of make it bigger because we both are kind of experts in it already, or not, that we're just curious about what the other person thinks. And I think that in many ways, as long as you're talking about something that you already have an inherent interest on, Like I see a lot of shows out there where, clearly the host is just being told to talk to this person and it's just really boring, and they clearly know nothing about them. They're not going any deeper, and it doesn't help the entertainment factor. It doesn't help the person across the table that this person doesn't know jack about me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of episodes that we've done, especially Stephen, we're talking about EVs. I have no clue about EVs, right? But he's, with the EV experience for more than 3-4 years now, driving an EV and all that kind of stuff. He knows everything. He's got a spreadsheet, for God's sake.
But the thing is that you're genuinely interested in the topic, so you can ask questions and I can respond. And even in that way, we have a good conversation. Just like when we brought Alex May, he's a fisherman, but we knew him from the tech industry. But he knows so much about fishing, and he had such great fish tales to tell us that we were like, what? Did that really happen? You broke your camera in the Amazon? Like, what's going on here? Tell us more. So even things like that make it very entertaining, but we had to know a way to kind of speak to him, and we're both on the same page, which helped out greatly.
Yeah. And also, if you have guests, is also to make them comfortable, because not everyone likes to be on camera and stuff. It doesn't. Some people don't know how to like react themselves and approach themselves, and making them comfortable, make them like really into the topic that we're talking about, kind of lead them and guide them. That also helps as well.
Yeah, so. This was like, even though some people are professionals on the radio, even our friend Pig Radio, Matt, he was actually a little bit apprehensive to do a video podcast with us.
That's right.
And he speaks so well, but I think that video component, that's why a lot of people say that you've got a face for radio. So stay behind the mic. And, Matt was fantastic. Like, he just kind of, as soon as we made him comfortable that we're all kind of showing our faces and we're all in this together, it just made him a lot more comfortable. And we just had such a good time. Like, if you haven't watched that video podcast, definitely go back in our archives. It's Matt with Pig Radio, and he was just so genuinely enthusiastic. And if you love microphones and audio and stuff like that, definitely seek that episode out. It's in one of our archives. I think that was season 2.
2, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where we can't even remember what's in each season. So be our experts. Be our experts.
That's right.
What do we got going on here next? We've got, obviously, with a rundown that shows that you have a propensity to plan. But the most important part for us, and I believe that this is one of the things that we've mentioned in our previous episodes, is the fact that even before we launched the very first show, we actually recorded nearly 10 episodes of the show before we published our first one back in May 2022. I believe that this was our very biggest secret to actually having the podcast work. Because I will state that fact again. 90% of the podcasts never make it past season number 3. Episode 3. That means that we had already recorded 10 shows before we already launched the first one, which means that we were guaranteed to make it past that show number 3. Plus, we had a rundown for each of the shows, and we had a spreadsheet of ideas that we hadn't even talked about yet that we were just checking boxes off on. We created rundowns for each of these ideas so that we knew we could fill the time and we could be entertaining. And we shared the load so that Winston had something he wanted to go on. I'm like, okay, I'll take these 2. He takes these 3. I'll take another one. And we shared the rundowns with each other so that we could actually put in our own notes, so that we had our own points of view, our own talking points. Maybe we find out something new as we're recording the show that we just pop in. And then that puts the other host kind of on a little bit of a defensive and having to kind of come back on that. So it makes the conversations just so much more engaging.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Having those pre-recorded podcasts allow us to have more time for planning the next episodes, which gives us more time to research the data or information, and maybe think, the last 2 episodes were a bit quiet. We need to up our energy. Or we can look back and say, hey, okay, we need more information. We need more facts, and that stuff like that. We can look back and see the mistakes that we've made and then improve on that. I think that helps.
I think there was actually 2 weeks where we weren't even around. We did nothing.
Right. That's right. We did. There was holidays. I think it was the holidays, public holidays, and that. So, and you were traveling as well, so we had to pause. But that helps us space out the episodes and gives us more time to plan ahead as well. So definitely something that, like you said, the secret weapon is it's actually having those shows recorded so that you can get past episode 3. Moving on to then the next few episodes, which is good.
So we already got halfway through that other hump that has been researched is that most podcasts don't make it past episode 20. We had already gotten halfway there before we even started our first show, and then we easily kind of coasted over 20. And and neither of us knew that these were actual indicators of podcast success. We just kind of did our thing. And we didn't realize that this research was being done. This research was being done at, like the beginning of COVID, where they were trying to figure out, a lot of people were starting podcasts. And this was actually information that they gathered from many podcasts that, this is what happened. Most stop at 3 and then most stop at 20. And then that was it for that podcast. It just was over. So for us, it would have stopped at season 2. Because we do 10 episode seasons. So now the fact that we're jumping into episode 5 today is a pretty huge landmark achievement. So anyone that's gone past 20, we look forward to seeing you join us soon in the 50 episode. We're going to 50 episodes. By the time we're done, Computex at the end of May, first week of June, we should be heading right into 50 episodes.
Yeah, wow.
Amazing.
That's amazing. Right? You talked about some of the stuff that you could use to help do the rundown. Like you talked about the spreadsheet and stuff like that. So I myself, I think about it. Guys, you use Gmail, right? Well, most of us use Gmail, right? Google's your friend. So it's free. So use it, right? So you got Google Sheets.
Yes.
That allows you to organize the data info like spreadsheet, right? And then you got Google Docs, which you can write down all your stuff, all your rundowns and that kind of stuff. And then you got Google Drive, which you can upload all your recordings and then, of course, play them back, share them, get some feedback before you can upload it to YouTube, whatever. But that's it. The entire suite of tools is there for you to use. It's free. So why not take advantage of that, right? And that's what we use. We use all those tools provided by Google to share and also provide all the documents and spreadsheets and stuff like that, which allows us to then share the content instantaneously, which is better. You don't have to send it on email. It's already shared. It's on your Google suite.
Yeah.
So
it's free is a good price. And the other thing I love is the fact that when Winston is done writing one of the rundowns, he just shares it to my email. And immediately on my Android tablet, I just hit refresh. The rundown is already there. In fact, one of the tools I use all the time, in addition to my laptop, is my tablet. My tablet actually carries all of the docs for all the rundowns. So I just refresh it. In fact, I'm using it right now. What I'm staring down at is where my keyboard is for my laptop, because I still have to see Winston looking forward.
On the camera.
But I have to also have the rundown here so I can figure out what I need to say. Now, if I wanted to get super duper fancy, I would have a prompter up here where I would just read through the screen. I do have one, but I think that, for the purposes of this podcast, I think we can be a little bit less like that because we want to be accessible and we want to be able to share our tips. I mean, no one's just going to go out and run and grab a glass prompter and just stick in the front. That's just stupid.
That's right. Well, Stephen, you never know. We could even one day, once we get big enough or have more time, we could even create like an online course for you guys, right? So
that would be fun.
Yeah, course 1, rundowns, scripts and stuff like that. Course 2, we could do like the video equipment, audio equipment and stuff like that. So something that we could have planned maybe in the future to help improve your podcasting, skills and stuff like that. So as we learn, we learn, you learn, right?
Yeah, like a master class. Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. So but as with any class, making mistakes, I think, is one of the things that helps us learn the most. I know that myself, as a learner that actually needs to kind of fail before he gets it. There is a terminology for that. People that actually need to fall flat before they get up again. I'm one of those types of learners. So one of the things that I think was our biggest mistake, and you'll see in one of our ranty podcasts, is the fact that we trusted a platform called Riverside.fm. Now, I know that a lot of people love using this platform. It seems to work with some sort of weird voodoo equipment combination, but we couldn't get it to work. We couldn't get it to work right. Riverside.fm actually ruined a number of our podcasts behind the scenes. In fact, there were weeks where we actually had 2 podcasts that couldn't go up. Black Friday was one of the times. We had some deals. We had some sales. We wanted to put up the podcast, but that podcast was completely obliterated because it was completely out of sync. I couldn't fix it. No one at Riverside could fix it. It took them days to get back to us, and the tool just didn't work. And we paid for it too, which was the worst part. Right. So show destroyer. And I'm so happy that we did what we did. Was we prepared in advance. We had rundowns, we had an outline, we had backup shows to go. And if anything, I think that maybe, and please reach out if you're one of them. Did Riverside.fm ruin your podcast streams? Please let us know in the comments. You know, we're it's like AA. We're like recovering alcoholics.
I mean, and there's that point you made about those podcasts, those pre-recorded podcasts, to cover those like out of the blue events such as Riverside or your streaming platform going down, stuff like that. It will help, because if you can't record on that day, at least you got a backup podcast which you can just upload and have it published. So it's important.
Yeah, if you get Riversided,
Riversided,
you got Riversided.
That's a term.
You got Riversided, man. I'm sorry your podcast failed. You must have gotten Riversided. That's so mean, but that's deserving.
Right. We're looking to a new platform possibly, but we don't know which one. We'll see, because we're doing the video podcast, which includes, of course, the audio and the video. We needed something that we could do that. We haven't decided to find out which one yet, but
look, we were not a bunch of assholes. We literally reached out and said, hey, we're willing to keep giving this a try to help you fix your problems. And what?
I don't know.
It's like they want a bunch of Karens to actually jump onto their platform and be like complete idiots to them, right? We were actually trying to work with them. We were trying to solve the problems. We're giving them data. We even pointed some coding errors out on their platform. Remember that one time where we saw code leak out in one of their arguments in the frame rate? It was actually like this piece of code that was like, what the hell is this stuff? It shows me that the frame rate is actually wrong. So your frame rate is mismatched already.
I know. I mean, we went on a different platform, and the other platform, which we won't say which one, but they decided to give us a try. Or we decided to give them a try, and they could immediately find out right away what the problem was with some of the hardware, right, that we were using.
Yeah. Well, why don't we just tell them what it is? I mean, we've tried different things. You might as well know. We tried Squadcast. Squadcast was actually one of the first platforms that I ever tried. It has amazing audio. It sounds so good.
The audio sounds
so
really
good. Yeah. But because we wanted a 4K show and we wanted a little bit more control, and they were also very expensive. So that was one of the reasons why we just couldn't bootstrap it, because they wanted at least like $40 a month to get any of the features that we wanted. We just couldn't, like, at the time, we just like, no, we can't do that. And it was only 1080p. So we were kind of disappointed in that respect, but holy moly, their audio, it's run by Dolby. Oh, yeah. So they have this whole Dolby back end. It just sounded incredible. Like, I think that we have at least one episode, and you might hear the difference, that was actually squadcasted, but the picture quality was definitely lower quality than all the rest. So if you're out there and you're trying Riverside, I hope it still works for you. I hope you have the right combination of equipment that keeps you going. I mean, we were fine for the first 2 months as well, but everything just fell apart.
I mean, in the future, we could be investing in platforms like Squadcast. Yeah. So, well, it depends. It all depends. So if we get enough sponsors, we might then pay for it. We could be on a better platform. But right now we're doing a workaround, which is, I think we've explained this in one of our episodes. We're doing a workaround where we're using the web browser of the Riverside to get the two screens of us on the same screen, and then we're recording the video on OBS.
Yeah.
So, and you're using the Rodecaster to do the audio.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in 1 second. So, I mean, basically what we've done, we're still using Riverside, but we're not using Riverside in the aspect that fails us every single time, which is, you said it.
Yeah, we're not recording on Riverside. We're just using their web interface for the screens.
Yeah, it's completely unreliable and out of sync. And if you ever run into a problem, it just, I just couldn't keep using them.
And they do stupid things like doing live updates while you're recording, right? And that failed.
We captured that in one of our episodes. It literally just updated, and then it was like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, and you notice these purple bars that you see on the screen?
Yeah.
That wasn't there before.
I didn't ask for that.
Exactly.
Did you ask for that?
That just suddenly come up. Anyway, so choosing the right podcast platform is important. So based on your budget, based on your requirements, there's a bunch out there. Do experiment and do give some free trials and things like that. See what's best for you. Because, of course, based on your budget, Riverside FM could be one for you, maybe. But if you've got professional audio equipment and you want to do some really professional recordings, Squadcast will be the one. So do some research.
And just so you know, the reason why Winston and I are using Squadcast or Riverside.fm, we used to use them, not anymore, or even some of you that are not looking at those platforms but just using Zoom for your podcast. The reason why we do this is because we live about an hour away from each other, 45 minutes in bad traffic, right? And the reason why we want to do it is so that we're comfortable, we can get recording immediately, because most of our shows are around an hour. So if we take 3 hours to make a podcast, including travel time and plus setup, it doesn't make us want to do them. So the other, I guess for us, the other really huge killer app for us is just finding solutions to record the best possible audio and video that we can where we are, and to focus our energy on creating the best rundowns that we can to have a coherent conversation with you, our audience. And I think that all that extra time that has been brought to our attention because of the whole pandemic and everything that has given us all these really cool tools. Because, I mean, when I discovered Squadcast, it was because I couldn't go back to my office to work. I had other people around, and we actually had to find a solution to record a radio show. So I looked at Squadcast, and because that's audio first, Squadcast was the perfect solution. So there's always a solution for every situation. There's always the right tool for every situation. And if you want to record with a friend overseas, this kind of, I hope this kind of gives you a inspiration to continue that, because maybe you're interested in Japan and you have a friend there. You could have like a Japan weekly. That would be a great idea.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, we could be Computex this year. We could be finding some friends out there that we could have a show about Taiwan, right? So, and he's there.
What's after Computex? What else can we get sponsored on? Can we go to the car show in Tokyo?
Hey,
that'd be fun.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
All right. So, like we have to move on a little bit here. And, again, this is the rundown helping us out, is that we talked about some of the things that failed us and everything, and hope they don't fail you. But we also have to talk about the gear. Gear can't fail either. And, I think that one of the things is that a lot of people think, hey, I need the best gear for everything because, like if I start right, it'll be good, right? Well, not necessarily, right? There's a thing called gear acquisition syndrome. Now, luckily, I've really started to grow out of that in the last few years. I mean, it's taken a lot of discipline to not buy something new that doesn't necessarily help me out. But I'm using equipment for way longer, and I'm creating with whatever I have on my hand, be it my smartphone or whatever, right? It's, for me, it's a very mature step of not doing the credit card thing and buying something new and hoping that it works out, right? But I have also made some upgrades that have been practical and have saved time and effort every single week. And what I've done to actually fund this is taken some of my gear, my own gear that I've had like kind of around the house. It makes me sound like a hoarder. I have gear in my studio that has been sitting idle for like 6 months or longer. And I look at that piece of gear and I'm like, hey, you know what? if you've been sitting here for 6 months and I haven't used you for 6 months, maybe you're not useful. So I've taken a lot of some of the audio equipment that I've had, and I've slowly upgraded my audio to more of a podcast type scenario where I can actually get better quality audio, better sound, a faster setup from beginning to end. And we've helped Winston along the way as well too.
Oh yeah.
So 3 things that I've ultimately arrived to besides my desk here is a proper scissor arm. So the arm that I have right here is actually very heavy duty. And, like I'm off screen right now because, you can't see me otherwise. This one is actually made by a company called Warm Audio, which is a company that Pig Radio, Matt, actually introduced me to because he has a mic from Warm Audio. So this arm is actually very high quality. It's not a scissor arm in the conventional sense. It actually uses leaf springs inside a tube, and it's really great looking. So if you're doing a podcast where you show everything on video, this is the one to get. This is called the WAMBA. And I love this thing because of the fact that there's cable routing that goes straight through it.
Oh, nice.
There's knobs on each hinge, and the base for the whole desktop mounting part is actually extremely sturdy. I've seen ones that just fall off, but this is using bars of steel to clamp to my desk.
Wow.
And if you have a specific podcasting setup where you can have 4 of these come out of the middle, it actually has templates for drilling holes. So you can actually drop them right in the middle and have them swivel around. So this is something that I like a lot because I'm not just recording podcasts sometimes. Sometimes I'm just doing voiceover stuff or I'm talking on Zoom. This just gives me a better audio experience for everyone on the other end, making it easier to understand me. And moving over to that, the Shure SM7B is the podcast mic of choice because everyone has one, from Joe Rogan all the way to any other podcaster, YouTuber that's doing an audio broadcast. It's also the last mic that I will ever buy for podcasting. It also sounds a whole lot like the mic that Winston has because he also needs to take off sometimes. And the Shure SM58 is the mic that he has over there. It's its little brother, but sounds almost identical in most situations. Of course, we need the Rodecaster Pro too. Now, the reason why we sound so much alike and so much better than previous shows without having to do a lot of EQ or equalization in post, which I actually kind of had to, but I kind of suck at audio as well too compared to other people, is I invested in a Rodecaster Pro 2. Now, the investment was actually more of a trade. I had a Zoom F8N Pro, which is a audio recorder for studio and also film work. This is a professional piece of equipment that I bought ages ago. Yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic, I thought I would use it for something else, and I did not. I didn't look at it for like 6 months after I got it. I used it one time on one shoot, and that was basically it. So because this piece of equipment was equal in price to, actually it was more money than the Rodecaster Pro 2, but I got a deal on it. I was actually able to trade that piece of equipment in for the Rodecaster Pro 2, which is the top of the line podcasting mixer / effects board that you can find out in the market. It is now a legend because it's been out there. It's helped so many podcasts out. So because this board does so much, Winston's voice that you're listening to right now, my voice going through this microphone, is all being equalized through this device. So
doing live
equalization. Wow. So what you're hearing right now has basically no latency which is amazing. It's parlor trick, right? So, but by being able to do this, our podcasts all sound not only consistent levels, but I don't have to fix anything at the end of the podcast.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is great.
It's true. It's worse than if you have to sync all the audio, all that kind of stuff, which makes it 10 times as hard. Yeah. But like you mentioned, the Rodecaster 2 Pro 2, you can use that mixer to actually do some video work as well, right?
I do.
It's not just for audio.
Yeah, so I do.
You've actually killed two birds with one stone.
It's big. Don't get me wrong. Like if I had the choice, I would have 2 pieces of equipment, right tool for the right job. But if you're doing voiceovers or audio, like direct audio replacement for films, so you have someone record on this thing, you would obviously remove most of the effects and just have a neutral voice, but you can totally use this as a recording platform for that. It has compressors built in as well too, which means that when I'm yelling, it doesn't sound like it. It's compressed, right?
So you're telling me if I'm
really
yelling
excited
right now, I'm really excited now, but the audio on the Rodecaster will actually kind of fix that.
It will attenuate it. So with the compressors on board, it will make it sound less like distortion and everything like that.
Oh, that's good.
It's great in that respect. It's still 24-bit. There are the next generation recorders, and hopefully they don't upgrade this too quickly. It's 32-bit. 32-bit, basically, you can yell into the thing. It will never clip. It will record everything, and you can actually infinitely increase the levels on it. That's the next generation of technology. But I think what Rode has done here with the Rodecaster Pro 2 is perfect for most people, because you set the levels and you forget about them. You know the compressors are on board. You just have to make sure that everyone speaking at the table is using proper mic technique, giving the best possible audio and voice and everything like that. Because if you eat the mic, it sounds a lot deeper and more. You hear the difference now, right? But I can't do this all the time. So Matt can Pig Radio can do this all the time, and like he's just eating the mic. I can't do this, but it is one of the best pieces of equipment that we've put together into the podcast to help us out. But it took many podcasts. Like, I wouldn't recommend this for someone that has episode 3, they're going to 4, and they might not continue. If you're at episode 20 going on 21, I would reward yourself with this piece of equipment.
Oh, right. Yeah,
sure.
I remember we first started, we didn't have all this stuff.
No.
I think you've only recently invested that. It must be like we're into like
I've had this for
25 or 30.
I've had this for maybe a month and a half.
Yeah, exactly. So the last 4 or 5 shows, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
We started recording using the Rodecaster. I think that you hear the difference between all the voices and the audio the last few podcasts.
Like I've had the SM7B since Matt was on the show, so that was like season 2. So after season 2, just a little bit after that, I decided to get this microphone, and I love it to death. But even then, there were some quirks with the microphone getting it to work, and it wasn't until the Rodecaster 2 Pro came into my life that it actually worked correctly. If you are interested in the show about that, you can let us know in the comments, but I can tell you a little bit more about working with this mic and the route that I took, and maybe this will solve you, create some solutions for you that'll solve some of the issues that you might be having at home. So chime in, let me know, and let us know that you want that show. Winston, you've also got some gear as well too, and I think that it's a good combination for anyone.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, when I first started, you hear the difference. First episode, when we did the very first episode, it was my gaming equipment, right? I had like HyperX microphones, the RGB. I had a gaming headset, that kind of stuff. And I had I just plugged the audio straight into the USB on the computer, right? Yeah. So that was just a gaming setup. And I think that's what most people have, right? They don't like, if most of the gamers, they think, okay, now I want to go into podcasts or YouTube, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they just use the existing gaming accessories to do the recording. And don't get me wrong, when you first start, that's probably the best way.
Yes.
Right? You have a decent gaming mic and headset, that's fine for first few recordings. And afterwards, you hear, comments or feedback, and then you think, okay, am I investing in a better mic? And this is the time when you got your Shure mic, you had some spare mics, and you say, okay, Winston, try this. So you gave me the Shure, this one here, SM50 something.
SM58. This is actually the story behind it. You tell the story. How presidential is it?
It's very presidential, apparently.
Yes. Why is that, Winston?
Well, you told me that, President Obama used it.
Oh,
right?
yes. President Obama, he's so awesome. He has 2 of them. He has 2 of them on the podium. Actually, you know what? Yeah. The SM58 is actually a presidential used as a presidential address mic. It actually stands all the time. It has a certain sound signature. It's very durable mic, so you can actually throw it and toss it. And it's outside in the rain with each president. I think it's the mic that they've been using for the last decade. You'll see it inside drum kits. So it's actually miking the drum. Kick drum, so it's very high pressure levels. It can handle it, but it still has a great audio signature that you're hearing right now.
Because listening back from some of the gaming mics and this one, my voice sounds so much better.
It's right.
This is just this is like you said, probably a 20-year-old mic. As in, not this one, but they've been in production for more than 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
Very long time.
Presidential mics, stuff like that, and. Connected to this is the Rode AI 1, I think it's called. USB interface because I need to plug this XLR mic to this interface so that it can connect to the USB to the computer, and it does all the processing there. But again, I wouldn't have a clue what to get without having Stephen give us this equipment and hey, give us a try. And with that, that's the only thing I needed for the video. It's just a standard capture card with the camera going through HDMI and stuff like that. But the audio, like I said, when you're running or producing a podcast, audio is king, right? It's 100%. You need to have a good audio. So the microphone is definitely something that you need to invest. But again, if you have existing equipment, use that for now until you find your feet. And then once you're happy with, doing a little bit of research, finding which mics to go for, then go for that. But definitely audio to look into. But this is fine. I'm going to be using this for a while.
Yeah.
I might invest in one of your mics later. But right now, this is fine.
Yeah, and I'll have some tips and tricks on how to make that work with the Rode AI1, which is actually, coincidentally, it's actually a 32-bit interface.
Oh, is it?
It's 32-bit.
Okay.
So you just have to have the right settings and you're good to go. It'll grow with you. And there's only one piece of equipment that I would recommend that would make you sound even more amazing if you get the SM7B. It'll make the other mics sound great as well too, but it's just one little piece of equipment that's about $80. We'll talk more about that in a later episode. I know that you don't want to hear about that right now, but that's our time to end. And you know what? This is why we have a rundown, because we want to make these shows. This is our promise to you. We want to make shorter shows this coming season, so you'll watch the entire thing from beginning to end. We've got a show right now that's coming up on 40 minutes, and I want to shut this down for you. So I want to thank you again for everyone that has subscribed to us, believed in us, and chose to sponsor us. Thanks to you, the next year is going to be even more interesting, amazing, and hopefully a better show all around for you, because we're hearing more from you. We can't wait. We love more comments, of course. And, if you want to reach me after hours, you can still reach me at Stephen Fung on Twitter and also on Instagram. Maybe until they start asking me to pay. I think you're the same, Winston.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram as well at Winston Chim, as well as Twitter at Winston Chim. I'm not paying. It's meant to be free.
Yes.
Right? So,
and also don't forget, at our podcast show is also on Instagram and on Twitter as well too.
Yeah,
our channels are live and available. So if you want to drop us a note there, we'll try to find some time to populate that with a little bit of content as we get along here. You'll probably see a lot from us at Computex in Taiwan, because it's a very interesting place. And I hope that we have more interesting places to go so that we can fill that up with more content and everything like that about us, about the show and how things are progressing, and maybe some notes about who we're talking to at a show and maybe getting them on board, because having that bit of, like turning the screws on sponsors because they're live, would they have to make a decision now?
That's right.
Might work out for us, right?
Yeah,
so
be fun.
Till next week, make sure you hit that subscribe button on this YouTube exclusive podcast that we call Our Podcast Show, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye for now.
See you soon. Bye-bye.